I'm here down in Rockport to celebrate. It's one of the reasons I wore my black tie. We're here to celebrate coal today. More specifically, I'm down here today with these leaders to take action to protect Indiana's energy security. You see, this morning I filed this lawsuit so that we could use coal again right here across the street. Why? Because coal keeps the lights on. Because coal has brought people out of poverty, not only here in this state, not only in the United States, but across the world. Because we need electricity and more of it now more than ever. And ultimately, when done right, like it's done here, coal is safe for you and your family. And years ago, without Indiana being involved, there's a lawsuit that was filed about 11 years ago. And this coal plant has effectively been given a death sentence ever since then. In those 11 years, that court order has been modified for the worst at least 5 times. In my opinion, because of a vendetta of those who are against coal, activists who don't understand what coal does for people and what it doesn't do to people. We mine coal here in Indiana, and instead of using it, we're exporting it to other places around the world, like China. They're building new coal-fired plants every week. They're not worried about burning coal, and they don't even do it right. We shouldn't be worried either, because we know how to use it. And here's the bottom line. The people of Rockport have jobs because of this plant. And I was told the people of Rockport would have jobs in the future if these coal units stayed on. And so this is something my office has been working on, not in the last week, not in the last 2 weeks, but for months now. On April 14th, you'll see by the picture, I met with our great mayor of Rockport, Kathy Kirkpatrick, and other local leaders at City Hall. They included the police chief, the clerk treasurer, the sheriff, and the surveyor. We talked about a lot of things. See, as a statewide office holder, I drive no less than 50,000 miles a year on average to different communities. And so in April, when I was visiting Rockport and Spencer County, I heard a lot. And a recurring theme through a lot of the conversation was what's going on behind me and what wasn't going on behind me. Concerns about the closing of, and let me say, Mayor Kirkpatrick is here with me now. She's happy to take questions if you have any when the time comes. I'm also joined by Corey Voigt, a native of Evansville. He's my assistant chief deputy, and he's in charge of the attorney in charge of this project and this lawsuit. I'm also joined by Terry Marsh and Alex Kerr of Alliance Coal, also known as the Gibson County Coal Mine, and they're happy to answer questions as well. So I listened, and then, as statewide elected officials do, I went away. But maybe unlike some elected officials, I'm back. Like I said, a couple months later, but we're coming back with some action, having listened. How we got here. A federal district court in Ohio effectively decided this coal plant in Indiana should close. And the real bad thing about it is neither Indiana nor this company was part of that lawsuit. Indiana and this company that runs this coal plant were traded away in some kind of settlement called a consent decree. Like I said, gave this company and all the coal it uses an effective death sentence. So my action today is needed to correct an errant court decision from a decade ago that took the sides of the activists and the weaponized interpretation of the Clean Air Act. In July 2019, American Electric Power announced that Rockport's Unit 1 will retire by the end of 2028. And that was based on a lawsuit filed in 2008, finally decided in 2015, and like I said, that has been modified 5 times. I don't necessarily blame American Electric Power. I'd probably throw my hands up too if I was strangled by all this nonsensical regulation, especially from the Obama and Biden years. And that's what caused a lot of these modifications over the years that basically strangled not only this coal plant, but coal plants across the entire country. And when we win this lawsuit, I expect it to be the first domino and a lot of dominoes to fall across the country about consent decrees just like that put the same stranglehold on coal plants all across the country. And think about these miners, these coal miners behind me, the jobs that they'll have, that their children will have, the good paying jobs, when we can get all this nonsense turned around. To be clear, the motion to intervene that I filed today only deals with that Unit 1 that I talked about. Unit 2's closure was the reaction, really, to the court case about Unit 1. And now that I'm intervening, I'm calling on Indiana Michigan Power to declare that they're going to try to keep Unit 2 open as well, especially if we win, which we expect to. Circumstances have now changed since a decade ago. The world looked different back then. Demand was flatter, energy markets were more stable, and the full impacts of Obama and the Biden era over-regulations were still unfolding. Well, they've unfolded to our country's and this state's great detriment. Today, we face surging electricity demand driven by manufacturing, population growth, and broader electrification, which are all good things. We also now have to account for the hot button topic of data centers. However you feel about data centers, they're going to suck up a lot of energy if they come up online. Grid operators have warned of the reliability risks. So in short, we need as much generating capacity as we can make available. So I also want to be clear that my office, with these local leaders, with others in this community, and with people across the state, I'm for an all-above energy policy. Yes, keep Unit 1 coal unit going. Yes, keep the Unit 2 coal unit going. Yes, build the gas plant. And yes, let's put nuclear here too. This could be an energy hub, not only for Indiana, but for across the Midwest. We cannot afford to shut a reliable generation prematurely. Why saw off a branch you're sitting on, especially when the solution is stable? And you're only sitting on the branch because of overregulation and bad legal interpretations. Thankfully, President Trump and his administration have made great strides to reduce and reverse some of these harms. President Trump has renewed emergency orders to keep Indiana coal plants operating, and we can't thank him enough. He's announced significant federal funding for coal plant upgrades and infrastructure, and prioritized American energy dominance over extreme green mandates. And today, as Attorney General of this great state, I like to say we're doing our part. We are in an energy crisis. Indiana and the nation are confronting real energy challenges. Demand is rising rapidly while capacity is declining. The consequences of bad energy policy, like we've seen the last decade, will be felt at the local level. We have to reverse course, and I hope this lawsuit plays a significant part. The Rockport plant supports more than 170 jobs, plus many more in the coal supply industry, like the two gentlemen behind me. The early retirement of coal-fired plants would be hard to absorb, not just in Spencer County, but for surrounding counties that I've been to often, like Sullivan, Knox, Gibson, all of them have long been part of Indiana's coal producing tradition. From a cost perspective, these units are already built and substantially paid down. So retiring them saddles ratepayers with the remaining book value of a stranded asset. We should be using these assets. Indiana Michigan Power has announced plans to build a 1,500 megawatt natural gas plant at the Rockport site, which is great, but that could never replace the plant's existing 2,600 megawatt coal capacity, which is why we say, let's do it all. IMP itself is projecting that power demand in its Indiana service territory alone will more than double by the early 2030s, which is 7 years away. Unlike natural gas, which is often imported from out of state and dependent on a pipeline capacity, coal can be sourced regionally and stockpiled like you see behind me, giving us a level of dispatchable, homegrown reliability that gas simply cannot match. Again, we like it all. We love all God's children. Nuclear, gas, but certainly coal. At a time when our state's power demand is growing, we need all the power we can get, not a replacement strategy, an all of the above strategy, especially when ratepayers haven't fully finished off paying what they've already invested in. Closing this plant on the original timeline no longer makes sense, and we must reevaluate it in light of today's realities and the safety record that coal has amassed. I will aggressively advocate for Hoosiers' interest in this matter. Filing this motion to intervene is a critical first step, but it's certainly not our last. I have a record in public service going back to my days in Congress, and that will not supporting coal, and that will not stop as your Attorney General and beyond. My message is simple. Indiana will defend its energy infrastructure, its workers, and its ratepayers. My office will pursue every legal avenue to keep this plant contributing to our grid as long as it's needed. I want to thank the mayor for her leadership in the city, for apprising me of this issue along with her team. I want to thank the coal miners behind me. I've been in that mine with them several times now, and I love their work. I love them. And I want to thank my office, represented here today by Assistant Chief Deputy Corey Voigt. We have a great team, and I'm very proud of them, and so should Indiana taxpayers be. We're happy to take your questions.
Attorney General,
Yeah.
I'm Barbara Bellinger with 14 News. One of the things I noticed is that the lawsuit is filed against AEP, the owner of the plant behind us. Did you talk with them during this process? What did they say? Are they on board? Can you tell us about that?
I can tell you a little bit about them. I'll certainly refer you to them for to hear from them directly. Yes, of course. Sometimes when you're sued, it's not a bad thing. This would relieve them of a lot of burden, a lot of regulation. They should be very happy about this, but we certainly did talk with them, and there were no objections.
I know you touched on it a couple of times, so could you go more into, it seems like this, at least from your perspective, this doesn't have to be an either-or situation, gas or
Right.
coal. I know maybe some people were fearing what the coal is here, what we have at that plant, and you mentioned you see this area as a hub as part of Spencer County and Southern Indiana. Can you touch more on what you could foresee and just to the point that those things...
Look, Indiana leads in so many ways. We're the biggest manufacturing state in the nation. For example, you don't think about that. You think more of agriculture, but we're the biggest manufacturing state in the nation as well. When you consider all our industries, the big ones on Lake Michigan, like the steel mill that I came from this morning to down here, and the little mini mills that are around, and the manufacturing companies that supply the big three automakers, Toyota, Subaru, Honda. And the traditional big three, we supply them too. We have tons of manufacturing here. We have tons of agriculture. We could be the energy producer, the biggest energy producer for this country if we wanted to. It can easily be done. We'd have to build some infrastructure to carry it all, but what a great problem to have. And when I mean all of the above, not just the fossil fuels, but as I came down from Northwest Indiana today, we had a lot of turbines we went by. A lot of solar, And so all of that is going to be welcome, and it puts us in a great position, especially with our geographic location. But I want to be very clear. I don't care who you are. If you say that solar and wind is going to solve this problem and save the day, you don't know what you're talking about. At best, it's ornamental. At best, it could supply extra energy on top of what we call a base load. What you're looking at here, that's base load. 2,600 megawatts is base load. You turn it on, you leave it on, and and the bet for not having to turning off has never been better, because the demand that's forecasted to be needed has never been stronger or clearer. And so we need baseload plants, and the investment will be great because the chances of turning it off are slim. I mean, we're going to need that energy from all sources, especially baseload. So we're in a great position to add a lot here. But yes, I have no intention with my lawsuit to turn off the gas plants. It's full steam ahead with that. And Governor Braun has talked about nuclear. AEP has maybe talked about nuclear being here too. Yes, but this coal, which has not only traditionally made this country great, but also will in the future, needs to be in the mix too. It really needs to be the foundation.
Mr. Attorney General.
Yeah.
I have a question. Under that modified federal consent decree you mentioned from 2019, part of that agreement included of shutting down Unit 1 by 2028 was that AEP did not have to do a $1 billion requirement of installing scrubbers. What would happen if your lawsuit succeeds? Will they then be looking right away at this $1 billion requirement? What happened in the last 6 years?
You'll have to ask them for their opinion on it. I don't want to speak for them. They have lawyers too.
Right.
We're not trying to put more burden on them or anybody else, but even so, it's a good investment for the future. Even if that were to be the case, that is a short-term cost for a long-term payout, but I'm not advocating one way or the other. And I think you'd have a choice. Like, I'd like to see the scrubber put on anyway so they can burn more Indiana coal, which they can't burn much of right now because there's not a scrubber on at least one of these units. So I'll let Corey Voigt add some detail to that. He's had conversations directly with AEP as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Hi, Corey Voigt.
Could you spell your name too?
It's C-O-R-Y. Voigt is V as in Victor, O-I-G-H-T. And to answer your question, kind of more in the weeds, it's because the regulations from the EPA have gone from Obama to Trump, and then back to Biden, and then back now to Trump. So AEP has, I would say, if I represented them, has dealt with a lot of uncertainty, but under Biden and Obama, those regulations were tightened. And they put them in a position of forecasting that kind of dollar figure you talked about, that $1 billion. So in moving to intervene in this lawsuit, part of what we're trying to do is to tell the court, you need to change your consent decree because the circumstances have changed. Not only with our energy future and what's going on now, but also the EPA and those regulations have changed with this new administration.
Anything else, guys?
I do have a
Yeah.
question for the mayor and but thank you for your time.
Yeah, please.
The mayor and then the two gentlemen from the coal mine would be great. Mayor, would you mind saying and spelling your first last name for me? I'd just like to make sure it's recorded.
Kathy Kirkpatrick, CATHYKIRKPATRICK.
So, Mr. Rakita mentioned the 160, 170 employees there. Are they mainly from around here?
I would say at this time they probably are. I know some at the very beginning came from West Virginia, but I think they relocated here.
Okay. And, sorry, I'm going down this train of thought real quick, if you don't mind. And I know you have a natural gas power plant that's starting to be talked about and go through the approval processes and things like that. but that, even if it all goes through, wouldn't come online until 2030, I think. So if it had to shut down in 2028, there would be potentially a 2-year gap of unemployment. Can you talk about that?
I don't know a ton about it. That's really a question for AEP. We certainly support whatever they feel is correct for their company, but I think they did make an announcement that nobody would be laid off and that everybody would retain their jobs. You know, it's going to bring in construction with the new plant for gas, so I would imagine, you know, it will be booming.
And so it sounds like you think that we have the workforce here to support both plants in the future.
I don't know that we have the workforce here. I know that the superintendent has been making plans to make sure that the school teaches these qualifications so that as they graduate, you know, they'll be able to enter this workforce. And I would imagine some will come in from other places. So it would help the economy in Rockport for sure.
I did want to ask you, Mr. Rapita, about I know just earlier this week, I believe the executive order from Governor Braun kind of, you know, in support of specific coal areas as they know as well. Can you touch on just that executive order?
Well, I welcome the governor's executive order. Like I said, the work we've been doing predates by months. Anything they're up to, we did not coordinate this effort. I came down, I listened, went away, came back, and this is the first action that we've taken. It'll be several steps. So, but look, we're working as a team at the state house. That executive order makes sense to me, and I think if to the extent, even though I'm separately elected, to the extent it's an all government approach, I'm definitely rowing in this direction. I welcome others to row in this direction as well. And to your question on the workforce, even though economic development's not in my wheelhouse, sometimes I get outside my lane, I'm told. I will make sure this mayor has the workforce. That's what these state programs exist for. That's what IEDC is supposed to be doing. I think you have a great question. You both have great questions here. You have a great question in terms of the worrying about the gap. AEP can make it a lot easier on themselves if they help us win this lawsuit, which they're doing, you know, and we win this lawsuit. We don't have to worry about that stuff, and I will never let you have a shortage of jobs here. I mean, hurts my heart a little bit. I'm glad there's coal miners and whatnot and others in the industry that coming from West Virginia to work here, but I want Hoosiers to have these jobs first.
Quick question, because I don't know a lot about the courts. Filed it today. What's the timeline that you're looking at here for how it might proceed through the system?
Probably a couple weeks. No, just kidding. I like doing that when people say they don't know about the court system.
Right?
No, we could be in this a while. But it's there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people across the country, a lot of legal scholars, a lot of interested parties looking at this across the country. Because like I said earlier, if and when we win this case, it's going to affect consent decrees all over the nation. I don't know if Terry wants to speak to that. No?
Would you mind spelling your first and last name and what you do and where, like your title and where you work?
Yeah, so it's Terry Marsh, TerryMarsh, and I am the Director of Government Affairs for Alliance Coal here in this region, the Illinois Basin region.
Okay. And the coal mine that you mentioned earlier, I feel like you said Gibson County. How much of your production in Indiana, let's say of coal production in Indiana, comes to the plant right behind you?
So I don't have exact shipments. I can tell you that my company doesn't directly supply this coal plant, and our support of the General Rakita is for coal generation to remain online. And certainly there are other coal units across the country that have consent decree issues too. And so we are very supportive of, as an industry a whole, keeping coal generation online for the state of Indiana and beyond.
Gotcha. So if this coal plant does shut down, you will not be impacted.
If this coal plant shuts down, we could very easily be impacted because there will be additional coal supply that needs to be placed at other plants if it's not going to this plant, which would indirectly affect my company. And so as an industry, I think you'll see us all stand and say together that we've been hit very, very hard over the last 20 years. And our sandbox needs to remain the size it is or grow for us to be able to continue to produce coal, not just here in Indiana, but in other regions around the country. And just to follow up on that, the southwest region of Indiana is the only region that has coal. And so when coal production is impacted for the state, it affects southwest Indiana significantly more than the rest of the state.
Thank you for explaining that sort of trickle down impact. Last question from me, sorry, which is where do you supply your coal to?
So we supply throughout the entire, really, the state of Indiana and that throughout the southeast region. So
Just not here.
just not this particular plant, but we do supply Indiana coal plants with Indiana coal, yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's good.
All good?
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you very much for your time on a Friday afternoon. Appreciate your interest in all this, and see you next time.